it's so good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, the week has just flown by since last week, since we were here.
Comes around very fast.
It does. Now, today we talked a little bit off air about what we're going to talk about. Kind of tell us a little bit of glimpse of it.
Well, I mean, if anyone watched or listened to the podcast last time, we had Ava on. It seems like, change typically occurs when there's some traumatic experience that we go through. It could be in relationships or it could be our health. A lot of times, we don't really think about how we eat until we have that heart attack. So there's always, it seems like change occurs after the fact.
Absolutely.
So really, I kind of wanted to talk about a few things today about how can we develop this intrinsic desire to change before these things happen. And so typically the reason we don't change for long is because we have a set of beliefs that kind of keep us who we are. We don't think we're capable of doing a diet, because we tried it before and we weren't able to stick with it. And for anybody in the fitness industry, it's so easy to see that there's no way you are going to start, say, today and live out the rest of your life only eating 100 grams of carbs. So we need to try to, find a plan that it is something we can start now and continue on forever. So really it's trying to motivate people. How can we motivate people to get fit or be concerned about their health prior to any of these things happening? And a lot of this has to do with our beliefs. We know we should do it, but we don't believe we can do it. And that's because we failed so many times before. And I've mentioned many times that it's not so much that we're failing the program, it's that the program is failing us. There's no way even people in the fitness industry could have continued on that plan because it's too restrictive. And, and then you get into the behavioral part, that's so important. I think it was Nathan Braden that said that the journey to change commences only after awareness and acceptance occurs. So what that really means is to really do some self-reflection, some introspection, and we leave that out. We just start with, give me a diet. And so what we have to do is first slow down for a second, and let's develop a game plan. And what that requires is it really requires us, what are the things that I'm doing now that are preventing me from the goal that I want? And making a list of that. And also it requires acceptance in the fact that I'm accepting, I'm being honest with myself that what I am doing now is keeping me where I'm at. And then, then you have to look at the why. Nietzsche said a strong enough why can bear almost any how. And so what is my why? If it's to lose weight for a high school reunion, that's not a very strong why. But if it's to play with your grandkids,
to stay alive,
to stay alive, and not just survive longer, but actually live longer. I want to be high functioning at 80 years old.
Absolutely.
Rather than sitting in a chair and not participating.
Lifespan is getting higher, longer and longer. Longevity.
Yes.
We were just talking to a longevity guy out here, and it's amazing how long people are living now. But what I see, living at the Stratford is we have an older group of people there, and maybe something happens, maybe a heart attack happens, something happens that forces them now to go into the gym, where they had not thought about doing cardio before.
Yes, and we did talk earlier. It's so much better to be healthy and have the heart attack, and then because you recover so much quicker. And so that is. It's. I want us to be more proactive than reactive. And in that first stage of acceptance and awareness, we recommend people get like a spiral notebook, and so write down what it is that I'm really trying to accomplish. Say weight loss. Well, what's keeping me where I'm at? Well, I'm overeating, or I'm drinking too much. Let's fine tune and find out where those extra calories are coming in. And then maybe it's educate. I want to educate myself more. And, education should never end. I mean, we should always be in the process of trying to, become better than what we once were. And you can learn at any age. And so, if you're retired, even taking a college class, and what's keeping me from that? well, it could be I'm not focused enough, or I'm hooked on Netflix. You know, but in our book, we should set aside, you know, it could be 15 minutes to an hour. It doesn't have to be this thing that you dread every day, to educate ourselves about something. You know, it could be that my goal is to be better with relationships. You know, if you find that you don't stay in relationships, they don't last long, well, let's be honest, is it me or is it them? You know, where am I finding these people? I mean, there's a lot of things that we can really, we map out a blueprint as to who you are right now. Something else, you know, is reciprocity with in a relationship, because am I treating them the way I want to be treated? You know, and then maybe they're not treating us the way we think they should. Well, are we doing the same? So it's really helping to define and lay out a blueprint about who I am and how I've got there. You know, so you know, once we get to the awareness and acceptance that we believe that change is possible, that's when we can start to set a goal. You know, about what I want to be. Now, if you're 80 years old, of course, it's probably longevity and making the best out of my next years in life. But if you're younger, well, we have a little more time to work with, and so we can set these goals. But we've talked before about the aspiration gap. And what we're trying to do is we're building this blueprint, and it lets me know where I am right now. Let's say I'm right here, and I'm not working out at all, and I'm overeating, and I want to run a marathon. Okay, well, that gap just became huge. And what happens in psychology is that the larger the gap of where I am and what I want to be, the more stress and anxiety, you're overwhelmed. And we just have found that people have a hard time reaching that goal or maintaining it for any significant period of time, and we just fall right back into our habits. So it is great to know where I'm at and where I want to be, but the thing is, we've got to take steps to get there. And I think that's where, you know, a trainer or whoever you're working with really comes into play, because, I mean, it's great. I mean, you know, what is it? I think Aristotle said the greatest danger is not that our goals are too high and we miss it, but that they're too low and we reach it. You know, so set the goals high, but let's also be realistic. And I know I've talked about the SMART template. I would definitely use the SMART template. And SMART is an acronym. It's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And so that really helps us to look and helps out a whole lot when it comes to reaching those goals. And then, you know, something else we have to look at too is how do we put this into action? So, you know, we get the goals, and then you get into the planning stage. So that's where we're about to take action. And the planning stage, if it's weight loss, it might be buying a rice steamer. It could be buying a air fryer. You know, getting the equipment necessary. If the workplace is not real conducive for watching what you're eating, then I've got to make my workplace compatible. If I don't have a microwave and I can bring one, then you can go buy a cheap microwave and put it there with a small refrigerator. I think most workplaces now are kind of set up for that.
I would think so, yeah.
You can do it. The thing is when they bring those cookies in, or the cakes in, or the little treats.
Donuts, all that stuff.
And the thing is what I would tell someone is, look, yeah, you can do that. Just don't do it every day. Pick a day. If you know somebody brings in something on Thursday that you really like, then you can have that then. Okay. You know, and just know that I can have it Tuesday if I want it too. But at some point, I've got to look at what my goal is, and is this helping me to reach my goal? So that, you know, that's real important too. I think Benjamin Franklin said that well done is better than well said. So then it's about putting it into action, and life rewards action. You know, I tell my clients nothing works unless you do.
Absolutely.
And so we've got to get that game plan together, and first we have to understand, we have to have self-awareness. You know, personal awareness precedes personal transformation. What we're doing is we're trying a new program with the same mindset we have prior to getting on it. And that mindset that we have now, there's no way we can do that. If we could, we would have already been doing it. So there is some little restructuring, reframing of our thoughts. And I'd say that that's one thing that my wife and I have really changed a lot about programs. When people are wanting to come to us to lose weight, it's first about self-awareness. And you may not be ready for that. There's stages of change.
Well, let's talk about self-awareness with somebody with weight loss.
Okay.
I mean, truly. I mean, let's talk about. I mean, is it? Are they the average person that you get into your gym? Self-awareness over weight loss. Is it somebody realizing I'm overweight, or I'm eating too much, or I'm gaining weight too fast, or my clothes aren't fitting anymore? Is that why they usually come see you?
It's all of that. Sometimes it is that. Sometimes they've gone to the doctor and they've been told they need to lose weight. So it's all, everybody's different. They realize that they need to lose some weight. But what they are completely unaware of is that there's this internal dialogue that we have going with us. I mean, I think right now is probably the worst ever in the history of man.
Really?
And I'm saying that because I've looked at the studies.
Okay.
There's one thing that the human brain can only process so much information at one time. And this is the first time in mankind we have more information coming in than we can process efficiently. We have our phone, which we could talk on it to a person. We could do a podcast. We could do a talk and have a podcast going at the same time and cut one off. We could be taking notes as we're driving, which we shouldn't do, but every red light, we're doing as much as we can.
Responding to texts.
So
Absolutely.
There's so much going on. And what it does not allow us to be in the moment. And what it also does is, the worst thing it does is it triggers the fight or flight mechanism in our brain. Our brain's number one priority is survival. And even though we're not running from a saber-toothed tiger, when we have that much overload of information coming in, it activates the fight or flight mechanism, and it's just as if a tiger's coming after us. So the brain doesn't know the difference. And so we, in response to that, we release stress hormones, mainly catecholamines, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and we also we release cortisol. And cortisol is a catabolic hormone. That catabolic means to break down. And so we start breaking down muscle tissue. We lower our metabolic rate. So now we're eating less food but gaining weight. Our blood pressure, our blood pressure used to be 120 over 60. Now it's 180 over 90. And we're thinking, well, salt could be a factor. But I just met with somebody yesterday. We were going over that, and this particular person said that she finds that she's just a little bit more on edge and angry. And I think that you can look at what's going on right now. Well, we got the political debates coming up, and we have a lot of anger and stress about who's going to be president.
Well, if they're looking at social media and looking at the news, I can see where that would be happening.
And that's what we're doing. I mean, you can't help, because any business you go into, there's TVs everywhere.
Yeah.
We've got to keep people entertained or distracted. And anyway, I mentioned to her that, well, you said you were on edge a little bit more. That could be why your blood pressure's like that. It's just stress and anxiety. It's this low
Does she
level.
watch the news?
Well, yes, she watches the news.
Yeah.
And
See, I don't watch the news at all. Zero news. I don't watch any. My husband, on the other hand, does. And you're right. He's a little bit more edgy than I am about politics.
It's funny because it's a control issue too. We think that if we're made aware of what's going on, I'm really up on everything that's happening, then I have more control over it. But the simple fact is we have no control over it.
Zero control.
No. And that that's one of the steps too, is control the controllable. If I can control this, what can I do? I can vote. That's it.
Same thing with the economy. People are talking about interest rates just ticking up right
Sure.
now. And you would expect when interest rates ticked up, our office would kind of slow down. Actually, our office is picking up.
Wow.
It's amazing. We've got more sales going on right now than we've had since the first of the year. Right now at this moment. But even though interest rates are going up, it's people, it's just amazing, especially what these agents are thinking, their mindset. They're staying consistent with what they're doing every day. They're doing consistency with all their clients.
And that's all you can do. Yeah. I have most of my clients, they kind of dabble in the stock market, or they are stock brokers. And I'm real quick to say, and I kind of say it flippantly when they'll go, yeah, the stock market's down. And I go, well, yeah, it's going to come back up.
Absolutely.
And then when they say, wow, the stock market's up, and I go, yeah, but it's going to go back down. Because
that's a good way to
just
look at it,
what
because
it is.
Exactly.
And the stock market is indifferent to how I feel. It's going to be the way it is regardless of if I'm stressed or not stressed. So just to know going in the stock market, things are going to come up and they're going to go down.
Absolutely.
There's a great quote, and I love it. It says, those who expect no misfortune, misfortune weighs most heavily on those who expect no misfortune. And then, that's a big part of Stoicism. It's a philosophy that I love, is to visualize the worst case scenario. They think that, a couple times during the month, you visualize the worst case scenario because it allows you to appreciate what you have now.
So true. So true. It could always be worse.
Because we're always fighting, God, it could happen. Well, no, it can happen. And these are the things that could happen. And then it brings you right back. They say sleep on the floor and make you appreciate your bed.
Exactly.
Once a month. And so, don't run away from thinking about the worst case scenario. I mean, that's okay. Things are going to happen in life, and all I can do is control me. I can't control anything else. So, self-awareness, becoming aware of the internal dialogue. Okay, what am I saying to myself? And you find out a lot of things about people. There's something called cognitive distortions. And you could be black or white. Well, everybody in that party does this. Okay, does everybody in that party do that? You probably have had a discussion with your husband, and he goes, you do this all the time. And you go, I do that all the time?
Everybody does this.
Yeah.
Everybody does that. Everybody does that. My kid will say that. Mom, everybody's doing that. I said, who's everybody?
Everybody?
Who's everybody?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we do that to kind of prove our position, or we may minimize, and that's when we minimize ourselves. Well, I'd love to sell houses, but, I'm just not as good as she is. Or you congratulate them, great job, you had your highest month of sales. Well, but, I probably will be bad. It won't be as high next month.
Isn't that crazy?
And we do that.
We do.
God, you've lost 10 pounds. Yeah, but I've got a friend that lost 15. And so we need to identify what you are. And work on those distortions. Make people aware. There are a lot of times they're just simply not aware. So, and that's why I recommend journaling. We've talked about that. I get up every morning and write these things down, and you really do start to see. It's a way of not identifying. So when I write it down, what would I tell that person? And so I can see what I'm writing and go, oh gosh, I didn't realize I thought like that, or I do that. And so it's a good way of creating a blueprint for ourselves. So after we become aware of some of the certain traits, I'll tell you another thing, is what is the first thing I tell myself when I wake up in the morning? When that alarm goes off and you hit it, what's on your mind?
What's the first thing you tell yourself?
Well, I can tell you what I used to tell myself. I would say a cuss word.
Seriously?
Yeah, because I'm going to go deal with these people. Okay, and it created a lot of anger.
Did you not like your job? What you were doing?
No, I did not like my job.
Okay.
Okay, because the perspective I had is that.
Now, were you doing the same thing as you're doing now?
No, this is why I got into this.
Okay, thank goodness.
So oh no, I have the best job in the world. I can't imagine doing anything else. And guess what changed?
Tell me.
Nothing but me.
Just you, yeah. That's the thing about it is when I get up in the morning, the first thing I want to is have a great cup of coffee, and I journal just like you do, and figure out the day, and I do all my gratefuls. Live in a life of gratitude, and it's a game changer for you.
Yeah.
But and it's get my son off to school and visit with friends, and then I have a conference call in the morning at 8:30. I can't wait to get on that conference call with my people.
That's great.
I love what we do.
You're living a good life.
What we do, absolutely.
And I call it well-being. I don't like to say happy. People go, I just want to be happy. Well, happy is a fleeting emotion, because you're only going to be happy when you have that shot of dopamine, and then we say we're happy. It's the way we feel. But to expect to be happy all the time, that's not realistic. You're wanting to feel like that. You went to that party and somebody said you look good. You want to feel like, well, it's not going to happen all the time. It's not about how. So happiness is, like, say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's 10. And sadness, let's say, might be a 2 or 3. What we're looking for is that 8. 7 to 8, stay in that zone. And it's more about, and I don't like to use the word content, because I think that means kind of some apathy. Like, I'm just satisfied. I'm okay here. Because I'm not okay here. I'm okay here, but I desire more. You know what I mean? And it's not desiring more as far as materialism. It's desiring more of what I can be. I want to be the best that I can be and do the best that I can do. And, you know, so
I've seen a lot of that with our young people, kids, teenagers. They're just like status quo, don't care, just don't care.
yeah. And they'll come in here and, I only want to work 3 days a week, but I want to make the same thing you're making.
Kelly,
It's
I seen
unrealistic.
lazy. That they love saying they're lazy.
Yeah, it's
There's
not
a lot. My mother would have died if I ever said I was lazy. That word didn't come out of our mouth when we were being raised. But kids actually love saying that I'm lazy.
yeah, lazy's not a bad word.
No.
Our dads would have, not that this is right, but they'd have pushed us out the door and said, go get a job.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, there's a balance here. And, you and I may work too many hours. And then there's those kids that don't work, but there's kind of a happy medium here. And I think that, trying to better yourself often comes with bettering other people and doing a good job for them. But you can't do that unless you're engaged and working. And then, but you also make time to set aside that family time and be present and not be preoccupied with work or what I've got to do. We've got to be able to shut that off. And I help people too, like when I used to walk in that front door and my wife would say, well, how was your day? I'd just spill it all out. And the thing is that when you relive that, you spill it out, you're reliving that exact experience again. And I say when I walk in that door, how was your day? My day was great. I said that people weren't living up to my expectations. Okay, well, what are my expectations? My who I am and who you are is a little bit different than I'd say the average person. I don't say this bragging, but I really feel like I can outwork anybody, and you probably feel the same way too. And my expectations was for them to have that same work ethic. Well, if everybody had that same work ethic, there would be 2,000 gyms in Tyler, and there would be 15,000 real estate companies. But there's just not. And so what I learned is I had to, and I don't mean this bad, to lower my expectations. Don't expect the same out of them that I get out of me. And that helped a whole lot. And, I have the ability, if you tell me what to eat, I can do it. And that's kind of a unique ability. I eat for performance, not for emotions, or not out of boredom. Because I'll look at my watch and say, well, it's not 12 o'clock yet. Because I know I eat at 12, I eat at 3:30. I mean, I have a certain time pattern. And I try to get all my clients to think in that way too. Because we should eat to control our blood sugar. We feel better, we perform better, we feel better. And after a while, it's like, why haven't I done this all along? And the other thing is you're eating all day long. Rather than getting up, not having breakfast, then maybe having some chips and a Coke at lunch, and then binging at night. I mean, there's a reason why we're binging at night, because we're hungry. So lowering those expectations, like I said, I got up and I thought negative, okay? But so what do I do now when that alarm goes off? I hit it, and I have programmed opportunity. The fact that I woke up this morning, I've got an incredible opportunity, and I really appreciate it. I'm with each person in that hour. I'm not thinking about the person before them or the person after. And it's really weird because I'll look up and it's already the end of the day. And I've had these great conversations, and I get to meet people, and I get to, hear about what they do and about their goals in life, and I just love it.
Do you ever wonder if sometimes age has something to do with that? I mean, you've lived long enough, I've lived long enough that we actually appreciate these relationships, and we appreciate people in general.
I think as you get older, that does become more normal, I maybe say. But I want younger kids to know, don't miss out on the wisdom that's available to you right now. And that's one of the things I talk about a lot too, is model the behavior you desire. And if I was wanting to get into real estate, I know exactly what I would do. I would come and talk to you. I'd say, listen, I'd like to take you to lunch or whatever. We can meet at your office. But I'd really like to talk to you because I'm wanting to get into real estate. I mean, you've got people who are successful. They become your role model. Just model what they tell you to do. It's not rocket science. You've developed a program that you know how to talk to your people when they first come in. You find out what they want, and then you go off of that. You've got a technique, a style. And I do the same thing with weight training and nutrition. And so there's some valuable knowledge there for these young people. I just think that, like you said, young people, they don't want to work as many hours because they've watched their parents, put in so many hours, and they feel like, I just don't want to do that. Well, you don't have to do that, but you'll not be able to enjoy some of the things that you get to enjoy. So there is a trade-off.
True. Very true.
So, and then acceptance. I've got to accept what I've written down because this is who I am. These are the things I do that have gotten me where I am. We're taking personal responsibility, and that's hard for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And then, so I said acceptance, and then control the controllables. The serenity prayer, put that on your refrigerator. Put it on your mirror, because that'll be a motivator for you. I did that with opportunity. I set a little opportunity card right there beside my alarm clock, and I thought, what an opportunity. And the thing is, don't beat yourself up. There were some days when I reverted back to that first word that was negative, and it was a cuss word. What we don't realize is that the human brain is like a computer. And the computing, the processing, is only going to be as good as the programmer. And so if the computer's flawed, it's not the computer's fault. It's the person entering the words in there. And so we are programming ourselves constantly by what we tell ourselves each and every day. And so if we can learn to interject certain words, opportunity when I wake up. If I start thinking about tomorrow, I'm never going to make it, it's going to be rough, I say perhaps. Just one word. If I find myself thinking something a little negative, I'll go interesting. Okay, and that takes me right out of it and makes me examine why I'm going back there again, because that's what got me where I was, and I don't want to go back there. And when you become the little program we have is called Awake, and it's not woke, it's awake.
Awake.
Yes. Da Vinci said, I awoke to find that the rest of the world was still asleep. And what you find is that you see people doing exactly what you were doing. You start observing people more than judging people. I've mentioned before too with people, if you tend to work with people that are negative and they come at you in a negative way, one of the words I pop in is suffering. I recognize the fact that this person is suffering about something. I know that it's nothing I did, and it allows me to have more compassion than to have judgment. And what you give them back in that moment when they're angry, the way you say it, has a big influence on their personality.
Absolutely, it does.
You change you, and by changing you, it changes them. I don't know if you're aware of the Gandhi quote, but he said, become the change you wish to see in the world. And that's really where it starts. It starts with us.
Absolutely. Kelly, I always love talking to you. It's always great.
Me too.
It's always very insightful. I love talking to you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this today. You'll see us, Kelly and I, we drop this on Fridays, I think, on our YouTube page. And if you think of any topics, you might go down into the comments and ask Kelly questions. And we will see you this time next week.
I ask you too about real estate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, whatever.